Welcome, everyone, to the next presentation. So thanks for deciding to spend time here with me, Nick Potkalitsky. We're going to explore the topic of generative learning and AI in classrooms. And we're going to dig into the science of learning and see if we can access some useful strategies that we might pair with AI implementation to get even more bang for our buck when it comes to helping our students develop thoughtful and efficacious workflows with AI. So a little bit of a background about me. So I am an English teacher by training, and I've taught middle through college and have a PhD in narrative and rhetoric, and have been working through this AI disruption / transformation in an excited manner here for the past 2 to 3 years, and been developing some pretty good pedagogical practices that folks in my network have found useful. And I just want to thank the Evergreen team for the opportunity to share some of my classroom experiences with you today. So the AI shift is here. So AI is transforming education as we know it. So the key, at least in terms of the research I am immersed in, is it's not only changing how students write, but it's also changing how they think. So they students are using AI in record numbers. So we've seen the percentages ticking up from 10 to 30 to now 50% of high school students using it multiple times a week. And those of us in the trade are thinking these are underreported numbers. At the same time, very few classrooms have really modified much of anything in response to this AI disruption. And I think that is really a spot where there is a lot of opportunity, and it doesn't take a total revamping of what you are doing. We can lean into already existing strategies, and we can really take advantage of this newly evolving landscape in order to create some amazing learning opportunities for students. So AI, in the research, people are writing a lot about efficiency versus engagement. So there have been 2 key studies that I have been working from and writing a lot about. Nicholas Spatula in 2024 did a deep study of AI's impact on student work cycles. And it was an intriguing study in that when students were put in situations and they were not required to ask questions of AI, sort of about the outputs, they naturally went into sort of efficiency case uses. But when they were put in curricular situations and they were asked to engage in a more critical manner, these sort of students over time began to focus on AI more in terms of engagement, more in terms of augmenting their higher thinking practices. So what this says to me as a AI researcher and practitioner is that the shape of the prompt cycle matters. So, and this is a real action point for educators. So we can take up the good work of helping our students create more interactive prompt cycles, and as a result, have much more inquiry-based and much more thought-engaging interactions with AI tools. So I've also seen folks writing about transactional versus conversational prompt cycles. So our goal is to get students to a place where they're having conversations with AI and not just looking at it as an input-output machine. So I have covered a little bit of this territory already, but I want to touch on one more point. So Nigel Daly, my colleague, he also writes about this concept of the cognitive bleed, which is, I think, kind of where we are about 2 or 3 years in, particularly with students who have higher frequency in terms of AI use, where AI is either seeping in terms of more of efficiency or more accountability and engagement sort of interaction cycles. So I can see it in some of my students' work, for instance, where I see students who are increasingly automating their thinking, and in this case, the cognitive bleed is leading to a diminishment of critical thinking and higher thought. But where I see my students, and I'm actively encouraging them in my class to use AI in more of a tutorial style, we see more of AI acting as a possibility agent and really opening up new fields of inquiry and study. And this is the modality that we really want to access with our students. So as I've thought about creating kind of a methodology for AI implementation, and I think we very much do need one, and we need to sort of lay it out systematically. And So luckily we have many decades of research on how people learn, and that we can access as we build good AI implementation curriculum. So I have particularly leaned on generative learning theory, which says that students learn best when they take existing knowledge and they generate new content. So generative learning theory was pioneered back in the 1970s by Merlin Wittrock, and he's had many a disciple since then. So Mayer and Fiorella have done work on the selection, organization, integration cycle, which is deeply rooted in what we have learned through cognitive science about the way memory works. That students need, and you can kind of think about it in terms of when they're engaging with a long list of information from an AI model in light of a prompt. They need to be equipped with skills and criteria for selecting through that material for usefulness. They need to be taught how to organize it effectively and how to integrate it into existing bodies of knowledge. So that's why, pedagogies that have just sat students down in front of AIs and sort of hoped for the best, hoped that learning will happen without kind of providing adequate scaffolding, have not really seen great results, at least in the first round of research studies. So Mayer and Fiorella have identified 8 generative learning strategies. And these you probably are already using in your classroom, and they're sort of listed under the strategies category: summarizing, mapping, drawing, imagining, self-testing, self-explaining, teaching, and enacting. These are things we can add on to like traditional content delivery in classrooms to help students reinforce and build new memories around information we want them to learn. So imagine you're trying to teach a student about a science concept. So in addition to sort of teaching them the basics of uh, the way that the structure of a cell works, you would have them reinforce that by drawing it out, and sort of enacting that knowledge through the mastery of the hand. So I think in the next couple years, skillful AI educators are going to be mapping out sort of equivalents in terms of what is it going to look like to do self-testing with AI tools or self-explaining with AI tools? How can we develop tandem work where students are mapping out the different purposes that are emerging inside an AI response, or simply looking at an AI response and summarizing it in their own words. So anything that we can do to slow down the prompt cycle, I think is really going to be to our advantage. Everything just moves so fast in AI time. We have to kind of return this work to human time to allow our students' brains to catch up. So my goal as an educator this year has been to sort of dovetail initial AI experiments with generative pedagogy. And I've had the good fortune to work with Terry Underwood, who writes a Substack called Learning to Read, Reading to Learn. And I met him, through the Substack space, and he's a brilliant pedagogical theoretician and much smarter than I am. But we've joined up actually, and we're designing an AI theory and composition class at my high school, and we are working with a really engaged group of students right now, small group, and we've developed two writing scenarios. So our whole mindset has been to make writing feel more authentic, because we're both a little bit suspicious of kind of the 5-paragraph essay, in light of how easily AI tools can generate them. So we are trying to get more student buy-in and engagement by creating authentic writing situations. So our first one had to do with writing an autobiographical sketch about big moments in students' lives with regards to technological development. And our goal there was to really shift them out of third person to first person writing. And it's a very weird exercise to use an AI model to edit a first person text, and they felt that weirdness and that tension, and it became kind of an explicit thing that we studied and did metacognitive reflection about. And in our second phase of our class, our second writing situation, I had an administrator write up a memo asking the class to do a deep study about AI's impact on the school, and they have some essential questions that they're trying to answer. So there's a lot of like turning over the class to student agency, and they are really just we're this in the second day of this project, and they're just it's really amazing to see them blocking out the work and really building their own outcomes for success, and just excited to see where that goes. So that's kind of the general framework that we're working from, Terry and I. And so in terms of trying to build in generative learning opportunities, we think about our prompt cycles as scaffolds for cognition. So we are not thinking them so much as input, output, or really using AI at least early on in our units to generate text, but we have built specific prompts that set up inquiry-based, um, uh, I guess, reflective experiences for students. So they kind of take the prompt and they drop it into like a FERPA protected tool. We're sort of partnering with Boodlebox, and they drop it in the Claude, and then they run this AI mentor prompt. And the prompts are like focused on specific concepts that relate to our writing projects. And, such as like what constitutes an autobiographical writing situation. And we set up these prompts so they have two or three main uh, targets in terms of what we want students to think about. And they open up inside of them spaces for students to do extended writing. And Terry is kind of the genius behind the composition of these AI mentor prompts, but we've had a lot of success with them. I know uh, teachers have explored, using AI as a tutor, and it's essentially what we're doing. But we just spend a lot of time on the front end, building that persona and building the objectives of the inquiry process. So another thing that we do to make sure generative learning takes place in the classroom is to, make sure the students are reflecting in specific ways throughout the prompting process. So we ask them not only to record like what happens, but to think about why and how. And we're sort of making the question of AI's impact on critical thinking a central one in our second unit. So our students are being asked to think about, like, when they use AI tools, what are the positives and negatives in terms of impacts on critical thinking. So if you want to kind of take some of these, it's what we're doing is pretty specialized, but if you want to break these out into some things that you might take into your classroom in the short term, I would highly recommend, if your school's working with Magic School or Conmigo, that you integrate sort of an AI log as a process-based sort of writing component that kind of always follows AI use in your classroom. Give students space to reflect. If you do want to, work with some mentor prompts, I'd be happy to help you build some of those. I also, if you want to pull down these slides, I'll have a UR code at the end. There'll be an example mentor prompt connected to one of these slides. And if you want to be particularly daring, and this is something that probably only works with students that are, in high school, but I'd imagine some brave middle school teachers trying this. But we've been in our class allowing students or teachers allowing our students to design their learning outcomes, particularly around AI use, specifying what good use looks like in a particular writing situation. So I make sort of a larger push, and I have been on LinkedIn for a concept that I'm calling possibility literacy. And I think this is a nice way of reframing AI literacy, opening it up to something a little bit more expansive. Because I think if we conjoin AI use with generative learning strategies. Like AI can really be a tool that allows our students to think more creatively, become more engaged in their education, and take more ownership over their learning process. So these sort of classrooms, when they arise, I call them like possibility fields, because you see students realizing their fullest potential in this new AI-infused landscape. So I dare you out there to be a tech-savvy humanist, to trust your students, to use safe AI tools. So that's an absolute imperative. And I do a good amount of publishing on that at my Substack, Educating AI. So it's important to conjoin good infrastructure with good pedagogy. Let's co-experiment together and share ideas, uh, because everything's happening so fast. We're going to have to really build this AI future together. So we are in the middle of an amazing transitional moment. We have some college faculty already rethinking assessment. We have high school students who are very interested in learning how to use AI in ways that do not compromise their critical thinking. So the time is now for building a sort of systemic approach that helps students maintain a space of mindfulness and agency in the face of tools that are primarily structured for automation and efficiency. So I have a couple questions here up on the screen for you to think about as we wrap up our conversation. So how might you redesign one activity, tool, framework to amplify generative learning with AI? Is there just some way that you can add a little bit of summarizing or self-testing or evaluating or imagining to something that you're doing with AI in your classroom? And what might change if AI or students are co-designers of their learning journeys? So this is a deeper educational reform question, but I've been seeing a lot of teachers, at least in my AI network, becoming more excited about this possibility, that we're going to have to lean into our students a little bit more as active participants in the design process of educational experiences, particularly if we're going to keep them engaged in a lot of the trust-based exercises that are going to be part and parcel of an AI enriched classroom. So I thank you for spending some time with me today. So if you're interested, I can be found on LinkedIn. I post frequently with my thoughts and updates from my classroom. I also have an active consultancy. I love to do trainings with people either in higher ed or K through 12. And I co-published a book with my friend Mike Kentz, who's also presenting at this conference. And we really believe that teachers are going to lead this transformation. And we published sort of a roadmap that helps teachers think through the first steps in this AI transformation. So thank you for being here. And if you do have any questions, you can kind of throw them out, or I'll take a look also in the chat.
I'll just say a quick note. Nick, I think you're one of my favorite follows on LinkedIn. You're always pushing the boundary. You're one of a handful of people that I'm always very curious to hear your commentary. And so I'm just really grateful that you were here and that you're
Yeah.
sharing with us. I think this is next level stuff. And I think you're probably sadly like 2 years ahead of the curve. But I think this is where we need to go. And so I'm glad that there are people like you who are out there sort of like shaping, shaping how we think about it and just sort of giving us some vague scaffolds that we can start to work with. So major
Yeah,
props
I mean, Terry is really, I mean, he's even like 2 or 3 years ahead of me. So,
you
so
said Terry?
yeah, Terry Underwood, yeah, the guy that
Very good.
I've been working with. So
Cool.
yeah, there's a lot of amazing potentialities in this AI space, but we need to work there really at our own pace. And so and I think it really just starts with teachers kind of experimenting with tools and getting comfortable. And I've had the good fortune to be, you know, I'm 2 or 3 years in and have drank the Kool-Aid, and so, but I encourage anyone to, like, just even starting small scale is a value to your students. So you don't have to have the fully integrated package yet. And we'll keep building the systems while you integrate in small ways.
Yep. All right. Well, sorry, I just wanted to jump in case if anybody else has any questions or thoughts.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to come to the keynote. How was the keynote this morning? Was it as amazing as I imagine it was? Yeah, I was teaching, so
Don't worry, we recorded it, so you'll have access.
Come on, Nick, you got to be like the rest of us and take the day off here. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah. I've played hooky enough for AI stuff, so
Got to be careful how close you fly to the sun, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, we can drop here. We got just the 2 minutes left, but I think
Yep.
it's a great end. And Nick, again, thanks for being here and for all your contributing to the space and just your open sharing.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. So this is a great event. Can't wait to do it again.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks everybody. We'll close this meeting. We'll start a new one, and we'll see you all soon.
Yep. Take it easy.
Bye bye.